for the first time that I could remember, I had done something that I was ashamed of. I was guilty. It was wrong. I was ashamed that I put chemicals in my body again. But I didn't allow the shame to control my life. I allowed the unconditional love of Christ to control my life. I allowed him to be Lord over me. I was reminded that he loved me and he accepted me, and that's what mattered the most. And that even if my bad decision to use again resulted in our relationship ending, I knew that he was still Lord of my life. And that's what mattered the most. I'm Rusty, this is my wife Korinne, and this is our story. Her smile, she was funny, she was fun to be around. Her and I just started hanging out quite a bit in middle school, started dating in middle school. We dated all the way into college, and during those years, we called our first relationship. During those years, her and I both were trying to learn what it looked like to love another person. And in that, we made plenty of mistakes. I know that I made a whole lot of mistakes. I started putting chemicals in my body, started using drugs around the time that Korinne and I started dating, and my addiction progressed more and more through high school and then into college. It got really bad.
Very quickly, I watched his addiction really take over his life, and that was extremely hard to watch. When you love people that struggle with addiction, it's difficult because the addiction a lot of times takes over so much, but you know the heart of the person beneath the addiction, and that was really difficult to watch. Rusty had a lot of significance in my life, too much significance during our first relationship. So the unhealthiness and no trust, and we still loved each other, but it was very difficult for us it wasn't a healthy thing for us to be together.
I didn't know how to be an honest man. I didn't know how to love well. I didn't know how to love my own self. I grew to hate myself because of a lot of the decisions that I had made through my teen years and into college, the people that I'd hurt, and became ashamed of who I was. And that shame drew me further and further away from being able to be deep in relationship with the people around me, including Korinne. And our relationship ended when we were in college because I chose to continue to use, lie, cheat on her, just do whatever I wanted to do. And that destroyed our relationship. So she went her way. Her way was deeper into relationship with Christ, and mine was deeper into my addiction, deeper into destruction. At the age of 21, I ended up in a hospital bed, strung out on heroin, with broken relationships all around me, thinking that there was no hope. No hope for my relationship with my parents, definitely no hope for my relationship with Korinne, and it brought me to the end of myself. I did end up crying out to the Lord when I was in that hospital bed and asking him to do something with my life because no one else could do anything with it. My parents couldn't put me together, she couldn't put me together, I couldn't put me together, and Christ began to do a work in my life.
His mom called to tell me that he was at Teen Challenge and was actually doing really well. And I just remember sitting on the floor in the hallway talking to her, and just tears streaming down my face of just so thankful that God had gotten a hold of him and that he was just in a safe place.
I went to Teen Challenge, and it was there that I learned that God created me, that he loved me, that he had a plan for my life. I learned that I could be forgiven for all the chaos that I found myself engaged in, that I no longer had to have shame and guilt rule my life. They no longer had to be Lord over me. I surrendered my life to Christ while I was at Teen Challenge, and he began to put back together the brokenness that I had caused in relationships.
Well, I did get to go to Rusty's graduation from Teen Challenge, and that was awesome to just see him with the men that had really poured into him and see him in that environment of where God really used to heal him.
I wish that I could say that as soon as I got out of Teen Challenge that everything was together and everything was perfect, but it wasn't. When I first got out of Teen Challenge, within the first couple of months, her and I were dating at that time, and I used again. I drank again, I smoked some weed, I took some pills, and I was really struggling with wanting to tell Korinne those things because I didn't want it to destroy our relationship. And I remember one night wrestling through these things with the Lord. And the Lord just said to me, He said, you have a decision to make. Am I going to be Lord of your life, or is she going to be your God again? And I just repented. I just turned to the Lord and I said, Lord, I want you to be the Lord of my life when it comes to the relationship that I have with Korinne. And what that meant was I had to get honest. I had to be honest. And I went to Korinne thinking I'm going to tell her these things and she's going to tell me that it's not going to work. The relationship isn't going to work. And I wouldn't have blamed her one bit if that's what she said. And that's not what she said, though. I'll never forget what came from this little 5-foot nothing girl's mouth. I knew that it was God. I knew that God was working in her for her to even be able to say what came out of her mouth. She said, in our second relationship, I'm not asking you to be perfect. That's not what I'm asking you to be, but what I know about you now is that you're an honest man.
I don't think God could have written a better story with our lives. I'm just so thankful that even through the hard stuff and even through the first relationship and all of that pain and, hurt, that He was able to turn around and connect us and for His glory and to show anything's possible.
No matter where we're at in life, no matter how hopeless a situation feels, God isn't done yet. God can put back together the most broken situations. He is a God who is faithful. He is a God who cares for us. And He is a God who will have the last say when it comes to His story with His people.